David, Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House, who sort of, I'd suggest, was a low pro guy up until the moment that he became Speaker. And now you look at Mike Johnson, and we said at the time when it happened, like, he's a holy roller, but I mean, like a real Trumper, election denier, and he supported. I think he was the lead counsel for those, the gay re-education programs. He was very much a part of that. So he is. I think he's a dangerous guy. But the reason I bring him up in this context is twofold. One, he went to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring or to meet with Papa Trump. And the second thing is he led a prayer on the floor of the House of Representatives. And it was just chilling to me. It made me realize that we are just a couple of clicks off the theocracy that we could easily become, David Cay Johnston.
Well, while the New Testament tells people to pray in private and calls out people who pray publicly and make a display of it, including, sports events, hypocrites, there's nothing illegal about praying on the House floor. Some Trumpers have been distributing a photo that shows Nancy Pelosi and others in what they say is praying. They were actually taking a knee in the concept of solidarity with the Minneapolis man George Floyd, who was killed by a police officer, and with perhaps the San Francisco 49ers quarterback, who, despite his enormous talents, has never been employed since he did that.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick, right.
But if you dig into this guy who was very low profile, nobody was paying attention to him, and the Democrats didn't even run something against him the last time, you find out that he is a weird and troubling character unless you are with him and want to turn us into a white privilege theocracy. He, has this quote unquote adopted son who's black. He and his wife have basically preached the women will do as their husbands tell them what to do business on podcasts.
Let me ask you a question, David. I don't mean to cut you off, but when you say quote unquote adopted, why do you say it that way?
Oh, well, they've now acknowledged that this young man who he said was adopted and who's only like 11 years younger than him, that he was not adopted. That was sort of, it's like there's a young man in my life that my children call the ninth child, but I'd never hold him out as being adopted. He's a young man who regards me as his second father.
I thought I was the ninth child, David. I guess I have to, maybe I'll play for the 10th child maybe now. But anyway, I get your point. He tried to represent it in a way as adopted
bit by bit, things are coming out as people are looking at him. Roger Sullenberger, who's this very good investigative reporter, who's now at the Daily Beast, was the first, I think, to get into the fact that he says he doesn't have a checking account that qualifies for disclosure, $5,000. He's made trips that make no sense unless somebody paid for them for him to give talks, but they don't appear on his disclosure statement. So he appears to be someone who has been thumbing his nose, like Clarence Thomas, at ethics rules. And I suspect, therefore, it's just a matter of time before more comes out. When the very first Clarence Thomas misconduct came out, I said on your show, there's going to be more, and there's been a lot more since then, and I don't think we're done, especially if Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator from Rhode Island, is successful in getting subpoenas to uncover the favors done for Clarence Thomas that are patently only being done for him because he's a Supreme Court justice. If he was a traffic court judge, a job for which I think he's qualified, nobody would be taking him on luxury tours in private jets and on yachts.
Yeah, that's ain't it the truth? So as we look at Mike Johnson and we again see him with Trump, who is in the Trump business, right? Trump doesn't really have an ideology underpinning anything. He doesn't have a governmental philosophy.
I am the greatest. Right. I am the only. I am the savior. That's his ideology.
It was a brand building exercise to run for president, and then he ended up president. It was like, So, so to my first anxiety that I kind of led with, which is, how far are we, David, from this Christian theocracy? I mean, I understand it's there, it's swimming through a lot of these people, but legislatively, I mean, you're a big picture guy. Could this government end up both, run by an autocrat and a theocrat?
Well, let's start off with the fact that Mike Johnson, the new speaker, is 2 heart attacks away from being president of the United States. He's second in line. Clarence Thomas, years ago, in a court decision, said that he didn't see any reason that Utah couldn't become a theocracy. He's wrong about that, which is one of the reasons he doesn't belong in the Supreme Court. Under our Constitution, you can't have a theocracy unless you're behaving illegally or you change the Constitution. But there are a whole lot of people who are spreading this lie that we were a Christian nation founded by Christians. As part of this, we're seeing a pushback on the whole slavery business. Brian Kilmeade of Fox News, I tweeted and threaded about this yesterday, says that America wouldn't be as great a country as it is if we hadn't had slavery and slave owners. And then he goes, now, of course, slavery was wrong. No, you don't even think what he said unless you're a racist. And if you think slavery had any benefits or made America better today, first of all, you're making a great argument for reparations, but more importantly, your thought process tells everyone else, you're a racist, you just don't recognize it. You're not self-aware about it. And Mike Lee, senator from Utah, who defeated in a primary a conservative, rock-rib, solid, thoughtful senator, Bennett Johnston, no relation at all, and now sits there. I teach my law students a little bit about him, where he has attacked the 14th Amendment, one of the 3 civil rights amendments after the Civil War that ensures due process, and he's attacked it. He is now, promoting the idea that it's okay for the FBI to spy on people he doesn't like, but it's outrageous if they spy on anybody he does like. And this is the underlying problem, Mark, is we're getting away from principles. Principles matter. John McCain said and did many things in his life I disagreed with, but in every case that I looked into, he at least was operating from a position of principle. There are politicians on the left who don't agree with some of the things they want to do, and when they're not operating from principle, I get on them about it. Principles matter. Integrity matters. But unfortunately, Donald Trump has introduced it's okay to just throw away facts, pay no attention. And as we now know, Karl Rove told the writer Ron Suskind about 23 years ago, you journalists will go on analyzing the world and slicing and dicing it. I'm paraphrasing him. And we will just go on creating our own reality. And that's what we're seeing, this creation of a reality that isn't real, but the actual facts are ignored.
This is that's a chilling quote, because there may be truth to it.
Yeah.
I looked at this Mar-a-Lago meeting, and alongside Mike Johnson and his meeting with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago are all these Christian nationalists that would, there's a Rolling Stone piece, and they say Christian nationalists were out in force at Mar-a-Lago, once again demonstrating their proximity to MAGA power. And again, Christianity is great, and religion can be a great thing for you, but it's now beginning to inform so many aspects of public life and government that it concerns me. So anyway, they go on, and essentially they are high-fiving each other to sort of summarize what was going on about the fact that the religious movement is making such great strides in modern America.
Well, it's making great strides because of gerrymandered districts and the partial gutting, and it looks like now with an appeals court decision, the full gutting of the Voting Rights Act from 1965. And there's an astonishing aspect to this, Mark, I really don't understand. in the 35 years I've known Donald, it's been very clear to me that he is not a Christian. In his book, he wrote with Bill Zanker. I don't know who wrote the pages for him, but he co-authored with Bill Zanker, Think Big. He spends 6 pages denouncing Christians. He calls them fools, idiots, and schmucks. And in the last case, he doesn't mean to be redundant. He means the more vile meaning of the Yiddish word schmuck. He announces in that book that his life philosophy is a single word, revenge. He has said this in speeches that were covered with videotape and audio tape. And at the last National Prayer Breakfast, when he was in office, this was in January of 2020, the main speaker talks about loving your enemy and turning the other cheek. And Donald says, I can't do that. I can't do that. And now we've had stories in first Newsweek, which I was skeptical of because of the decline in the quality of that place under its current owners, but now in several other publications of pastors of evangelical churches saying that members are coming to them and saying, why are you teaching this Sermon on the Mount, turn the other cheek business? We don't want that. We want you to preach Donald Trump. Hit him in the face 15 times over. Take joy in ruining the lives of people. Things Donald writes in that book, that nothing gives him more joy than to ruin the lives of other people. And that tells you, once again, no principles, no integrity among these people who are not Christians. They call themselves Christians, but their actions and their stated beliefs have as much to do with Christianity as for those who are watching on the internet, the scene out the back of my house looks like Hawaii, not Rochester, New York.
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect. So you've kind of then articulated that Trump connects with this crew like Mike Johnson, who connects with his crew, which is the Christian nationalists, and they have risen in power. They're now at the Supreme Court level, at the legislative level, as you've explained, with dominance, or at least significant enough in number because of gerrymandering and the like. And if they get their MAGA savior, who right now, stands a even money chance of getting back into the Oval Office, does the nature of America change from that standpoint? I guess what I'm asking about.
Oh, I think very much so. And I think people need to really be paying attention here, and they need to register and they need to get out to vote. I tweeted and threaded yesterday that Mike Davis, who runs something called the 2025 or the Article 3 Project, he declared that if Mehdi Hasan, the MSNBC host, if Trump gets back in the White House and Davis is made Attorney General, as Trump has suggested, that he intends to arrest Mehdi Hasan, charge him, put him in what he called the Gulag, right out of Soviet tyranny, and deport him. Never mind that he doesn't have any charges to bring. He's just going to prosecute people. And Trump is talking about, and the people around him, like his Minister of Hate, Stephen Miller, who, when he graduated from Santa Monica High School, I guess 25, 30 years ago now, they had to stop his speech because the one he said he was going to deliver was replaced by one that was pure racist vitriol and hatred. And they took him away from the speaking platform. The danger here is quite palpable. Now, I do want to point out that I think we have good reason not to trust the polls because response rates are so low, which we talked about last week. But the fact that even in these polls, in the states that matter, the swing states that are up for the election, that clearly large numbers of people intend to vote for Donald Trump, should be deeply disturbing to us because Donald Trump has made no bones about it. If he gets back in the White House, it is the end of American democracy. He will do what he tried and failed to do in 2020, which is just stay in the White House. We now have credible testimony from people who were there that he intended to stay, which backs up, of course, his actual conduct. And he tried to overthrow the government of the United States. The judge in Colorado, the state judge, earlier this week found that absolutely he is an insurrectionist. But then she adopted this bizarre argument by the Trump lawyers that the president of the United States is not an officer under our Constitution. Gee, let me see. How does that oath for the president go? Faithfully execute the office of the president. There's grammatical fine tinkering, but both Judge Ludig, who is a big hero to the principled right and a serious scholar of our Constitution, and Lawrence Tribe, the most distinguished constitutional scholar in academia, who is very liberal, they both agree that this decision by the judge that Trump is not an officer of the United States is ridiculous. It's indefensible. It's not backed up by the law. I think what it is the judge said, well, the facts are here, but I don't have any backbone. I'm afraid. I don't want to.
That's exactly what I was about to say to you. It seems to me that it's all a workaround by these judges and others who can stand to actually do something, and they're frightened. They are literally frightened.
Well, if Trump has threatened the family of Jack Smith, the prosecutor. He has gone after the clerk for Judge Engoron in New York. Listen, if Donald wants to, as he has, go into a diatribe denouncing me, various things, he has his pet name for me, Weird Dude. He can do so. I don't have any problem with that. And I recognize that, some crazy I could open my door and some crazy person could shoot me. But I'm a public figure. I chose to get into this fray. The secretary to a judge, the family of a prosecutor, they shouldn't have to have police detectives pick them up at home to take them to school or work and a series of protocols to protect them. And I don't understand the hesitancy of courts, because any other criminal defendant out on bail who did and said what Trump has, they'd absolutely be locked up now. And there have been, I don't know how many public defenders, prosecutors, and professors and retired judges who've said that in the public sphere. And yet, he has his free speech because he's running for president. No, he's a criminal defendant. He should be treated like everybody else. Nobody is special in the criminal defense system. And given how many innocent people we have put away, the overwhelming proof that in the last 30 years we have executed innocent people for crimes they didn't commit, the leniency being shown to Donald Trump is appalling.
And I kind of feel as though David see point A on that, which is that people are frightened of the repercussions, even if it's not personal repercussions, personal danger they may be in, although as you just suggested, don't discount that at all. But the reality is that they see it as a problem for the system to jail a former president.
Yeah, although I tell you, Mark, I have said many times, including on your show, that before we get through this, there will be more blood. It's going to be lone wolves and nutcases, which are the people we've had so far. We're not going to see a mass uprising as with the failed coup attempt on January 6th, 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. When Trump has shown up at various court proceedings, there have been tiny crowds supporting him. His rallies are drawing smaller and smaller audiences. And, at DC Report, starting about 3 or 4 years ago, we sent journalism students or journalists, or in one case, one of my sons who's done legwork for me, to Trump rallies. And we taught them how to shoot pictures in the back of the room. Basically, you shoot a selfie with people you made nice with, and the back of the room's in the background. And you could see there was nobody there. Trump focused the cameras where he wanted and wouldn't allow the TV and other cameras to shoot anywhere there. His support on any level of overthrowing the government by force is dwindling. But that doesn't mean he can't get into the Electoral College. It doesn't mean we can't have, unlike 2020 and 2016 and 2012 and on back, and a corrupt election process, at least in some of the states.
Sure, he's found the right country for to back yourself into the chief executive office. I've only got like 3 minutes with you left.
Yeah.
I want to do a hard pivot to something that I was thinking about you last night because I just thought, what would David's reaction be? You know, Elon Musk on the X platform has retweeted a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff. It's become a real cauldron of hate. And there's a lot on there. And when he himself is, retweeting, giving greater oxygen to this hate is particularly disturbing. This is, comment if you want to. That's not really what I want to ask you about. What I want to ask you about is Musk is being talked about for this reason, as there need to be repercussions. There need to be, government needs to drop contracts with this guy, et cetera. I've always maintained on this show, and I think this is a sign of sort of the oligarchical tendencies of the United States, that you cannot, we have such dependence on Elon Musk, you cannot break these contracts. You need them for Starlink and SpaceX. And sure enough, the government contracts are, they just re-upped another one with SpaceX. I guess what I'm getting at after that lengthy ramp up, David, thank you, is isn't Elon Musk the sort of guy, along with the Bezoses and the other super wealthy guys who the government depends on for different services, aren't they wagging the dog forever? There is no bringing them to heel.
I don't think they're doing it forever. What we're seeing are the sour fruits of privatization. There are times and places where privatization works better, especially when you use nonprofit organizations whose focus is on service rather than maximizing profits. At the moment, the Ukrainian military depends on Starlink. They've had, sometimes not had access to it because of Musk. Musk can run his business however he wants. He has a general right to do that. But corporations that want the public to buy their products, their goods and services, should be shunning him. Now, you'll notice all the companies that have announced we're not going to be there anymore, they didn't say it's over. They just suspended for the moment what they're doing. We saw a whole bunch of companies after January 6th, when 147 Republicans voted to not certify the election, say we're not going to give to them, and now they're back to giving to them. Led, by the way, by AT&T of all companies. I mean, a horribly anti-American company named American Telephone and Telegraph before they went to initials. Musk represents, though, this real problem of concentrated power, oligopolies, and monopolies. And one of the reasons the economy is the way it is right now, as Robert Reich pointed out yesterday, prices have gone up, I think it was 20%, in the same period that corporate profits have gone up 75%. And Musk is someone who, like Donald Trump, believes the rules don't apply to him. He's not accountable to anybody. At least at this point, we know without any doubt that he's an anti-Semite. In fact, I would say a vicious anti-Semite who's adopted the position that Hitler was right. And whatever you're talking about Hitler, whether it was attacking the Russians or it was a concentration and death camps, Hitler wasn't right. So he needs to be shunned. And the answer to this, I believe, is first and foremost consumers and individuals. Now, I'm going to continue to use his website, but I will never buy a product advertised there. Nobody in my family, we've discussed this, is going to buy any product advertised on Twitter. So I'm just simply draining his resources, I suppose, in a tiny, itsy bitsy, teensy weensy, atomic level way. And the data he's getting on me isn't of much interest to advertisers because they're not interested in people my age. They want youngins. But I got my children behind me on this and my grandchildren.
Yeah, in your case, it's a pretty substantial crew. Your family.
It's a fairly big crew. Yes. And so he just, yeah. Mark, it's just we need also to have our government stop being his sugar daddy. He is a huge welfare king. Collecting huge amounts of public money, and we can find other vendors.
Well, I mean, I'd love to see it. It's just, and the arrogance, by the way, I mean, it's one thing to take advantage of the system, as you suggested, the privatization of everything and the mergers give people like Elon Musk supreme dominance. but the arrogance, a lot of, a lot of these guys keep their mouth shut, I guess might be a way to put it. But Elon Musk, the arrogance, the pomposity with which he makes all of these statements, and he's a hate monger. So,
yes, he is absolutely a hate monger. So, well, listen, enjoy your bird-free Thursday.
I love talking to you, David. You're so kind.
We're going to enjoy our heritage turkey, which is ridiculously expensive because they have to take this flightless bird and send it to you on a FedEx jet. But it's so much better than the industrial birds that most of us eat, and worth, if you can possibly afford it, it really is worth it to get a heritage turkey, assuming you're not just a cranberry sauce and potatoes guy like you, Mark.
Listen, there's a lot of good feeling and great food at my place, David. Someday you'll see it. I'm so grateful as we give thanks for our continued connection. Thank you so much, David Cay Johnston. Happy holidays to you. All right. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.